The courage to give yourself in sacrifice for God's purpose will only be equal to the extent of your revelation of the greatness of God. Now that's a mouthful, but let me try and unpack that a little bit so that you can have the benefit of it. Christianity in essence is based in a sacrifice. It was God the Father that sacrificed His Son. And it was the Son that sacrificed His life so that we can freely have this immense gift of His grace, His love, His forgiveness. We didn't pay any price at that point. We didn't earn it. It's His free gift. But I want you to note that the basis of Christianity runs through in our lives as well. That there comes a place where you will have to pay a price to follow Christ. Follow Him in His purpose. And whenever His purpose becomes clear, then there's usually a sacrifice called for on our side. His purpose calls for sacrifice. It means you'll have to give from your side. But what I've also found is that the greatest thing we need when sacrifice time comes is actually courage. And I call it the courage of faith. And it's important that you know where to get that. Because it's not just within ourselves to make the kind of sacrifice that's often needed to fulfill our purpose in God, to really follow Him all the way to where He wants us to go. So I found that you need revelation, that now I see a moment in your life of His greatness. We need revelation of His greatness and His unlimited ability. That sparks in us the courage to sacrifice. It's not just because there's a great need always, but it's really what sparks courage in our lives. It's that moment when we see God is awesome and great and unlimited in His ability. So it's summed up like this: great God, great courage. So when you have a great revelation, it goes to great courage, and then you can bring the great sacrifice that God calls on all of us at some time in our lives to make, to really fulfill His purpose. Now please know this, that when God calls for sacrifice in your life, don't focus on the sacrifice. That's the time that you must focus on the greatness of God. Look at His track record and remember that He's the one that created everything. He's the one that parted the Red Sea. He's the one that raised the dead. And it goes on and on. And when you see that, then at that moment, you would have also in your heart great courage. Remember, great revelation, great God, great courage. And you'll be in the place where you know that nothing is too difficult for Him. I just thought of Abraham, that was called at a particular time in his life for that great sacrifice of his own son, to bring Isaac and offer him to God. But Abraham could do that for the simple reason that he knew that God was even able to raise the dead, as the Bible said. Abraham knew the greatness of God. Therefore, he had the courage to be willing to bring his son and say, Lord, I'll surrender my son to you. And you will know this in practice, and I pray for that God comes through every time where He displays the courage of faith to bring the sacrifice that He's asking for. But it's based on your revelation of His greatness. So may God give you great revelation of His greatness, so that you may be full of courage to make the sacrifices that He calls for at the right time, so that you may see wonderful breakthrough in your life. I pray that you will remember God is with you always. Emmanuel, God with us. Please like and share, and I trust this will build you up and many others that you share it with. God bless.